let's consider a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Dakota.
Second.
Second by Jill, any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We'll move on, nobody here for open forum, I assume. Alright, we will do Mustang Spirit recognition.
Anybody have anything?
Anybody have anything?
I do.
Alright.
I just wanted to pause and recognize all of the custodial staff and buildings and outdoor buildings and grounds staff that are working so hard to prepare the school and the grounds for our students and staff, and you know, those are people that people don't see doing the work, but I think it's important to recognize them. So I don't know if board members ever see any of the custodians, it's worth a opportunity to say thank you, or staff or people in the general public that are listening online, so perfect, shout out to them.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to Rum River Special Education update.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hi, Tanya Tacker, Executive Director of Rum River, and I have Tracy Wells with me as well.
Tanya, you can sit at that table,
yeah, you
that's
can
like
sit
the
wherever you
presenter
want.
tables,
Okay.
but I mean, you're okay to sit
We
there
got a
too.
special table?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
special table.
Yep.
For you
And
guys.
I don't know if Leo's back in.
I might have to call him
Okay,
if you're okay with that.
yeah, 100%.
Okay, perfect. So I have Tracy Wells, Director of Finance and HR with Rum River with me today. And then we also will have Leo Dravling, who is our Senior Project Manager with Nexus. And so, next slide. Dan had asked, or Superintendent Voce had asked for us to come in, just give a couple of updates. So we're gonna do a quick new facility project update. Leo will be able to walk through a couple of changes that we've had to do. And then an audit summary and fund balance. Mr. Voce had just asked us to summarize our last audit that we had, and then just share a little bit about our current fund balance status. And then finally, how districts are billed, just kind of give you a reminder before the school year starts on how districts are billed. So we'll go ahead and get started with the Rum River North project. And I will call him, see if he can log back on, or if he can kind of go through some things with you.
Oh, here he is.
Oh, he's on?
Yep,
Okay, perfect. Leo, can you hear us?
can you hear us, Leo? I think your button's on mute, I can see.
You might be able to hear us.
Yeah. Let's
Can you hear us, Leo?
Leave if you can hear us.
You may not, I'll chat him,
I'm guessing that's a no.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a no. I'll just give him a,
yeah.
Yeah, just call.
sorry.
Too candy though.
Yeah.
Well, that's all that
You
matters.
can hear it too.
Hi.
Hi,
Oh,
Leo.
can
Oh,
you
we
hear
can-
us?
I can't hear you on my microphone for some reason on my computer, so I can see you guys.
Okay.
Just have him leave the line.
Say what, Matt?
Have him log off. And
Okay.
just do it on the phone.
Okay, they would like you just to log off, and then you can just go through the phone.
Okay. I can do that. Do you want, or, I can dial in.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay. He's gonna try dialing in, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry for the delay.
Oh, it's fine.
Is everybody's summer going well?
Fast.
Too fast, yeah.
Busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dan will have to let him
I have to let him in again?
in. Yeah, probably.
Okay. Should pop up again, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Here he is.
There he is, okay.
Hey, Leo. Candy, do you want to mute, so maybe if
Hello everyone, sorry about that, I'm not sure, sometimes I have a problem with Google Meet and I get it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Leo. We are just getting started with the update with Rum River North. So if you would like to kind of walk us through those slides, and then we can answer any questions that may come up as we go through them. Did you hear me?
I think I can hear him.
Do you have to turn your volume up, or can you?
One of you might have to unmute him. Turn up your volume.
Will that work for her? Leo, does that work for you? Okay, I'm just gonna call in, we're just, final answer, we're just gonna do it this way.
You guys talking now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Now we can hear you.
Alright, perfect, then we good now, so.
Okay, so Leo, we were just talking, we were just talking a little bit, I just did a couple introductions of what we're going to be talking about today. So if you wanted to go ahead and go through the slide regarding what conditions require a remedy with the board.
Sure. So with that, I don't have the slide up here with me, but, the first one that we had, I believe, is, we ran into some wet conditions, with all the rain and coming out of the winter, the ground was really saturated. And digging footing, we could do that, but then once we started to looking at placing the footings with the clay soil holding the water, it was just, you're playing in mud. And we'd make a little bit of progress and it'd rain, it just was really hard. So, to make some progress, we got a hold of Braun, our geotech, and he made the recommendation, which is pretty common, is to put river rock in to over excavate and then put river rock in the bottom of the footing. And then from that, you can place your footings and then build your foundation walls. So we did that, and that worked really well, and it got us pretty far. So, that was the first step that we took. And then, moving forward, trying to get, the foundation backfilled, we ran again. It just rained every other day, and with the clay soil, it was just really muddy. And so then, again, we went to Ron, asked him best thing to do. There's two options. The first option is kind of just do it naturally. With maybe a smaller building, smaller site, you could get away with it. Where you just let things kind of dry, work the soil, let it dry, maybe backfill a little bit, right? That's good for, like I said, a smaller site. For something of this size, you can do all of that, and then it rains, and then you're back at square one. And so that was the first option. Other option with that is basically just bring in clean sand, which is pretty common practice, right? I've done it before, and that's what we went with. That option cost about, well, originally they said it was going to cost about $87, and we capped it at, we said, okay, you know what? Let's see how far $60,000 is going to get us, right? And these are big numbers. I'm not taking that lightly. Like I said, those are big numbers. And so that's why we capped it instead of going the full boat. They were able to do everything for that amount, and with that, they were able to bring in all the backfill. That allowed us to finish the foundation complete. And why that's important, if we would not have done that, we would be in a bad spot right now. We would have been spinning our wheels. Maybe we would be, halfway through the foundation, and then that would have put us in jeopardy of the overall project schedule. So, it was money well spent. With that, we did have an allowance of, $100,000, looking at the site that we set up, at budget time. And then, we also received a credit, that, we weren't planning on, but, we found some VE, and we received a credit. So, in a nutshell, that soil work it cost us money, but we didn't really have anything out of pocket. I think we had like $1,400 total. With that, we're back on schedule and, you know, we're moving full steam ahead. So, that's part of my update. Tanya, what else do I need to explain here? Not seeing the slides here.
Yeah, the last slide, talking about bid package number 1 of budget clarification, you kind of touched on that a little bit. I don't know if you want to run through that a little bit more, but other than that,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so with that, that's pretty straightforward. Just, I think it kind of explains it there, but originally we didn't have the foundation, fully designed, so we didn't know what we were gonna need for excavation on that. And so, when we brought out the second bid package, we wrote up the work scope for it, assigned, you know, the values for, the soil that need to be excavated, you know, footing length, all that kind of information, and got it over to our excavator DW. They gave us what those costs would be. They seemed fair and within reason, and so we just included that within the budget, and that was always part of the plan. So, so that was, you know, work scope that needs to be done. We just couldn't assign it at the time that we did the site package.
So that's just a brief update where we're at with the Rum River North project. Do any board members have any questions for any of us? I know I mentioned a couple of you, Leo, before you got on the call, a couple of board members have driven past the site and they're excited to see the progress. It's going up fast, so we're excited about that. So.
And
So that is where, that's probably where I'm most excited is, with doing that soil corrections, right, the whole thing with where we're at is being able to control the site, being able to control the construction. We're at a spot now where we have full control, right? If it rains a little bit, yeah, that might cause a little bit of delays, but, you know, we're full steam ahead, with getting the steel set, and, you know, our next milestone is gonna come up, hate to say September, but it's really not that far away, with getting the roof on and getting watertight. So that's kind of the next milestone that we're gonna be looking for. And, after talking with the contractors and looking at it, I don't see any reason why we can't be there at that point.
I was just gonna mention, I see the steel going up, and then, like, just so the board has an understanding, the completion expected date, is it next spring? Next summer.
Yeah, fall 2027 is when students will be in there.
Sure.
Leo, I don't know if you have a more updated timeline. I think we're thinking spring 2027-ish, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully we have a couple extra months that we can just move in and all that stuff, so.
Yeah, so with that, right, so we're looking at, you know, hopefully next May, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what, we should be coming in at. You know, nothing past June, so, we're on track for that. We put it on the schedule, it makes sense on paper, and that's usually the first check, so everything makes sense there. Without the soil corrections, like I said, we would have been spinning our wheels still, and that would have put us at jeopardy hitting those dates. And also with that, you know, going into winter this year, we're gonna get as much done on that site as we can, so that when spring comes, you know, maybe we have to pour a little bit of sidewalk and put the second lift of asphalt on, so that we're not, you know, doing a lot of exterior next spring. Gonna try and bite off as much as we can right now, so that makes next spring much easier for the site.
Sounds good.
Any questions regarding the Rum River North site?
We're ready for a field trip next spring.
Yes. We should do a field trip, that'd be fun, so. Great, well, thank you, Leo, we appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Feel free to ask any questions.
Sounds good, thanks.
Perfect. Okay, so the next topic that we have is our most recent audit. As you can see, our audit period and auditor, the period was July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Our auditor is Bill Lauer with LB Carlson, formerly MMKR. And I'll have Tracy kind of run through the results and opinions of that audit.
Sure. So we had a clean, unmodified, opinion, which is good. For findings, we have a special ed audit every year on the federal side. Everybody has a federal audit typically. You guys may not always have a SPED audit. It might be food service or something else, title programs probably. We only have SPED, so that's what ours is every year. We had no federal SPED audit findings, so that was great. On the Minnesota side, we had one finding that was in relation to our local bank. They basically switched how our accounts were insured, and they moved from private insurance to FDIC insurance, which means we had to get all these sweep accounts. And they had a couple of hiccups on those sweeps, and when they were sweeping over a couple times, it was past the business days, so the statements wouldn't line up. So then anything over 250 technically isn't insured by FDIC. So that's what that finding was about. Our auditors went and spoke with the bank and helped them go through some things. The bank, very small local bank in town, they're great. So they've got it taken care of now. They also have their own insurance that covers over the 250, but it's not the FDIC insurance that they said they were switching to. So that audit came with that finding. You can go to the next slide. Our unassigned fund balance is right at $2.5 million, which is 19% of our expenditures, which was up $350,000 over the prior year. We have a policy that requires a minimum fund balance equal to or more than 15%, so we're sitting great there. Another thing I just pointed out on the slide was for us it's essential to provide the cash flow needed to meet payroll and benefits and other obligations in a timely manner. We rely heavily and mostly on special ed aid. A little different than most districts, and that's usually at least 18 months behind, so that's why we always have a little bit more just for cash flow.
Any questions on the audit or fund balance that we're currently at? Okay.
All right.
The last topic that Mr. Boche asked us to talk a little bit about is just how districts are billed for our services and our setting for programs. Just maybe to start, refresh your mind.
Well, it's kind of unique, and
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think everyone knows how that works.
It can be
so,
complicated for sure. Yep.
Give us
Yeah,
an easy
so I
version.
kind of divvied it out into three main categories that people seem to ask about. So we've got our setting for programs, obviously, our schools, the new Rum River North, and we have 2 schools in Cambridge as well that you send students to. For setting for services, we receive special education aid for most of the expenses there, and then any remaining amount is tuition billed by MDE. And so that's all through the tuition billing system, so it's based on your usage at the sites. And that's everybody, member, non-member, it's all the tuition billing system for those unreimbursed special ed costs. So we get the SPED aid up front, and then what's left over, so Paul Farron tells me to say it's about 75 to 78% that's covered with special ed right now, which obviously that can change. So that leftover amount is tuition billed based on usage to everybody that uses our programs. So that's how the setting for portion of it works.
And that's members and non-members.
Yep,
That
yep.
are billed through
Yep.
tuition billing.
Co-ops get their costs covered. So that's why that extra 22% or whatever is not covered of special ed costs, MDE bills out through tuition billing. It's a system of all the money going back and forth. You get some tuition aid for students that you guys serve. You also get billed through the system as well for sending students away, which a lot of them are probably through Rum River.
And basically, it's the, based on the amount of students that you have, you're billed,
Correct.
right? So
Yep.
that
Absolutely.
can fluctuate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. There are some unreimbursed costs that cannot go through that system, and that's if they're not SPED eligible. Mostly that's the leases, right? We also have things like utilities and some gen ed costs that can't go through that system. And that is based on program usage as well. And we send a hard bill for that, and the member districts get the majority of that back through lease levy. That's where our biggest chunk of that is the leases on our buildings, and that's what we lease levy for. And that'll be the same situation with the new building. So if you're a member, you have access to that. So it doesn't, you pay the bill, but then you get it returned through the lease levy. Does that make sense? All right, the other big part of what we do is contracted services. So we have a lot of staff that are in Mora buildings, OTs, PTs, coordinators, school psychs, vision teachers, DHH, all those specialized staff, and I'm probably missing a couple. Those costs are allocated based on the district's child count within the cooperative. So this is just something that's provided to member districts. And that then is put in your CEDRA, it's called. So your district, Mora, reports those costs as contracted services to Minnesota for special ed costs. So you're now getting about 75 to 78% of that cost back directly to you. And so the leftover cost is your out-of-pocket cost there. Yeah, I put in here roughly 75%. So that's how our contracted services are paid for. I bill you for them. We do 3 equal bills throughout the year, and then we clean up at year end. And yeah, that goes really smoothly, but yeah, those are all special ed staff, so you get that 75% back through the state.
Yeah. And part of being part of the cooperative, then you have access to those services which no school district can afford to have on their own,
Correct.
right?
Yeah,
So,
Sure,
Yeah.
right, like
Yeah.
you might need 0.2 of vision services 1 year
Yeah.
or things like that.
And the other positive being part of a co-op, let's say you have multiple students who are blind or visually impaired move into your district, we provide those services at no additional cost. You know, we're able to, you know, if you have 1 or if you have 5 students, we're able to cover those services for each of our member districts.
Kind of like an insurance policy,
Yep.
as opposed to where the student's at the setting for you, paid for by the student. Yep.
Yep.
The other thing I mentioned in here is the federal funds. So all the member districts have federal funds, but when you're a member of the co-op, those federal funds all go to the co-op. So we get the federal funds. We actually, a few years ago, switched how we paid for things, the way the special ed formula changed, and there was a way to kind of manipulate's not probably a good word, but maximize the value of the special ed aid.
Legally manipulate.
Yeah, yes, with a lot of help from Paul Farron.
Yes.
So we switched that, so basically now we're passing through about 75% of the federal funds back to the member district, so we don't use a lot of those expenses anymore. And what that does, it allows the member districts to use that 75% towards tuition bills, so it offsets any tuition bills that you have. So if you ever pull a report, you'll be able to see there how much is kind of take, like if Mora does $100,000 towards tuition bills, you kind of get a discount off your tuition bills at the end of the day that you don't have to pay back. With the state, it's all through the tuition billing system.
Yeah, that was an important thing for districts to maximize, like you said.
Yeah.
Some of the expenses and things of that
Yes,
sort.
Yeah, that was a really positive change when we went to that. And we had that discussion among member districts, so that way of funding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any questions? Those are kind of the 3 big categories there for funding and how the districts pay for our services at the co-op.
No?
Clear? Clear
Yes,
as mud?
very clear.
Clearer.
Yes,
Clear.
clear.
Well,
Yes,
good.
I like
Hey,
that.
that's-
Clearer.
I'll take that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is kind of convoluted when you are not enmeshed in it
Yeah.
like we are as
Right.
much, so.
Perfect.
If there aren't any other questions, we thank you for your time and
Yeah,
the
thanks for
invitation.
coming.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you, we appreciate it, so.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, same as well.
Have a good night.
Hopefully your technology works great.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
All right. German club trip.
German club trip. I don't think I need to go sit at the
Okay.
I've known some of you for much longer than others. This is kind of the reason I became a language teacher, is to be able to like work with students to really dig into themselves and the world through the lens of at least one language. And so the students that are able to go on the trip, this is like the really special thing. A lot of work goes into it, but we went on a successful German trip this summer. It was my, this is the 10th year that we've had it be an exchange as well. So we're unique amongst the travel programs at our school that we have an exchange school and a really strong relationship there that I'll share a little bit. So I have a few pictures just from our trip that we went on in June. It was 17 days long. And so here we can see Wolf, who is on the left, who has been here several times, and I always stay with his family. And on the right, you see Nayla, who started helping as his second this last, or 2 years ago. And on the right is Elena, who's going to be taking over for Wolf because he is going to be on a sabbatical for a year. So the two ladies on the right are going to be taking the helm. Wolf has been in charge for a while. So at our exchange school, you can see they have all these signs on the walls, and they have their American flag, which Rick Martins, who went on the trip with us, was seeing how they were just shoving it into a bag at the end of the welcoming potluck, and he carefully showed them how we treat the flag. So you can go to the next slide. So just a real highlight that the students expressed this year from the trip was the time with the host families. You can see a couple pictures here with me with my host family. We're saving about 2,000 newts there on the left. And here's a World Cup viewing party we were having on the right. It's just kind of different to be with people's homes and doing things like that instead of being a tourist. Next slide. Here's one of the days we were at school. You can see some of the Rue boys, Silas and Jonah in the middle are doing a little presentation on American sports culture. On the left is Miss Hecker. I live with, that's Wolf's wife. She's teaching a class to 8th graders about politics, a class that we don't have at our school, and just kind of an insight into how very different their school is than ours. And I'll say they're in a very economically prosperous area, and you can see the technology differences in our buildings. Yeah, so anyway, interesting. Oh yeah, and there's the World Cup on the right. It was a big deal. So Spain has won now, that's over. So here's one final picture from our host family stay. Here's some of the boys as we were playing mini golf together. And then there's my son on the left saying goodbye to his host father at the train station. Wolf and I always give each other high fives when we see tears that day. So there were lots of high fives, lots of tears. Successful exchange, why I do this whole career I have is right there. So moving on to the next slide. Just a few highlights from the rest of our trip. We went up to the north in the German-speaking world. So this is a museum that is much like Ellis Island, except the opposite, where it's the Emigration Museum. And so we got to see a lot of interesting pieces of the perspective of where have all of our countrymen gone, right? Our Europeans gone. Most to Ellis Island, some to Australia. And here is Addie dressing like next slide. We even saw a phone book from Mora, or from Kanabec County. It was like, where do people go? And it was very interesting, from like 2007, not very historic, but. Here we are in the North Sea. The scientific portion of our trip here was getting to know about these worms. You can see Kira Martin's holding in the middle, the only worm in the world that has a mouth with jaws. And on the right picture, you can see Lisa Houdina. She's the teacher from Hinckley High School, who we have a tradition of traveling together, and we've become good friends over the years. Yeah, it's the tidal flats there are the largest area when the tide goes out and has just miles and miles of the mud surface there. So it's a really special place. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so really special to visit. Also up there in the north, we got to see some really interesting things. On the right there is the Evergreen, which is a sister ship of the Evergiven, which was stuck in the Suez Canal 4 years ago, if you recall. Just some really amazing things to learn about really the transportation in our world. Like the 6 huge ships that were there that day take more fuel than all of the personal driving vehicles that we drive in 1 year, to just these 6 boats in 1 year. So more fuel than all of our cars on the planet. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very, it was good to be part of that. Next slide. We also, while we were in Hamburg, here's a highlight, we went to go see a show, it's kind of like their, New York with Broadway shows, so we saw Back to the Future the musical, it was great. Everyone got dressed up, next page. On the way back from, the musical that night, you can see Emma Axtell carrying a bunch of bottles, any idea why?
Refills, or the
Yeah, you
returns.
got it, former student, okay,
Yeah.
so Dakota, thank you, yeah, so the students really got into recycling, especially because you get money back, so I think that was a fad. They also fall in love with a grocery store, I don't think they go to grocery stores that often apparently in the US, they're like, you can buy pretzels for 20 cents, and I'm like, yes, children. Next slide.
Life lessons.
So this statue on the left just came out of nowhere, and it's called the Fighter's Spirit by Aaron Sparlock. I had taken a field trip this year with students to the MIA in the cities, and this statue is standing in front of the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. So I had done some reading on it, and as we went to this exhibit, that was the first thing we saw. And when we were in Kiel, a city I've never been to, we turned around the corner and my students were like Jeremy Kunkel was the one that, he was like, wait a minute, we've seen that statue. So, yeah, so apparently this one in Germany is a copy, and we have the original. It's a very interesting moment. You can see a picnic we're having. It got quite hot towards the end of our trip. This is the end of our beautiful, cool weather. Next slide. As we entered Berlin, just the inundation of history, I'd like to share with you a little bit. Has anyone seen a stumbling stone up on the top? So Scott knows, Dakota knows. You know, as you're walking many places around the world, if you see one of these underfoot, you might notice that it's a memory of someone who is passed due to the Holocaust, that used to live at that address. So you stumble over these things constantly. My students on the bottom left are in Babelplatz. This is the place where there was the first book burning in 1933 in Nazi Germany. And so you again stumble and see, oh, beneath here are all these empty shelves that could have been filled with the books that the students burned that night. On the right we see the evidence of where a flight tunnel was under the Berlin Wall. So just the things just simply that you stumble across underfoot. I just wanted to give you one small highlight. The students really enjoyed being in Berlin. Next slide. We're almost done. I did not take a lot of pictures of the concentration camp Ravensbrück. This is where Corrie ten Boom spent some time. It's a women's concentration camp, and it was very eye-opening and disturbing to be there. We had a lot of good discussions. Next slide. Some fun things with the trip to the north. It's kind of like in the US when you travel to the east, there's just a lot more public transportation, a lot more people, and so, you know, everyone got to know how to use public transportation really well, a skill that you can transfer maybe to the eastern part of the United States. Here we are doing the high ropes course. You can see Mason Schultz, Amy, it was so fun that day with him, and my son Torsten, so look at us working so that they can have fun. Next slide. I think I have two pictures of food here. Everyone is interested in food, so here's a typical breakfast that we had. It's kind of sandwiches and yogurt type things, cucumbers. The next slide, I wonder if you can figure out what it is. I believe it's been in the news a little bit this summer. I've never seen this kind of dressing just, you know, ready at a hostel before. So on the left we have French style dressing apparently, and on the right, American dressing. What could that be?
Ranch?
Ranch.
Ranch.
It was essentially a watered down ranch, yeah, which I've never seen in Europe before, so we got kind of excited, right?
Funny.
And then so the last slide is just our group here from Mora. We had adults and students, and we had a great time and worked really hard and learned a lot of things. So thank you for your support. We do hope to continue the exchange and continue traveling in the future. So here's just a little insight. Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Perfect.
Does
Thank
anyone
you,
have any
Lynn.
questions?
I feel like you skimmed over the worms a bit too quickly.
Yeah, so if you'd like to, I can send you a picture, it's,
Do they bite?
no, but what's interesting is that because they have these jaws, like what they do is they're usually under the sand, and, what you see above the mud is what looks like sort of perhaps an animal itself, or like a tubular sand formation, that they're underground, and this is what's coming out as they're processing, much like every worm that is processing just by taking in soil and
Yeah.
having it go up, but because they have this jaw, it's a much larger amount, and it's a very strange looking creature. Yeah, a lot of interesting crustaceans that
Yeah.
don't live other places in the world.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Need a chaperone for next time?
Well, you can see I'm starting to have more adults travel, so let me know.
We'll talk.
Thank you, everyone, I
Yeah.
appreciate what you do in this room to make this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, Amanda.
Yeah.
Special trip.
Alright, we'll move on to the 2026 Minnesota Legislative Session Summary.
Yeah, is it okay if I sit here?
Yeah, you can,
Okay. So, yeah, I wanted to give the board, a brief, summary of the legislative session, this, actually, I have a mistake there, 2026 legislative summary. So if we go to the next slides, just remind you of our mission vision. The next slide after the vision is a picture of our sixth graders at the Minnesota State Rotunda. They do a sixth grade trip, so I thought that was pretty interesting. So, a quick summary of who represents us here in Mora. We have 3 representatives. Nathan Nelson, he lives in Hinckley. He's the main, has a large portion of our school district. Ron Kresha, who is now retired, he was the co-chair of the education committee. And I think he was in education too, so he'll be missed. And Representative Isaac Schultz, I think, is closer towards the Ogilvy area, but has a slice of Mora as well. And then our state senator is Senator Jason Rarick, who probably most of you know, he's been there for a while. And I personally, I think I've been able to have a good rapport with these legislators. They're willing to meet. Jill, I know you go down there as well. They're willing, and Dakota's gone, Amy's gone. They're willing to meet with people, and they wanna listen and hear what it's like in Mora or what other towns that they represent. So I think they do hear us and they do advocate for us. And so that's something that's, I think, important. The next slide, you know, it wasn't a funding year. I know I've given you updates on, you know, the surplus that was there is shrinking. What was interesting is the House was a tie, so a lot of things that moved through the Senate didn't necessarily move through the House. That's not a good or bad thing, it's just a thing. The state Senate, or the state budget in FY27 had about $660 million to spend. And they are predicting closer to a $300 million reduction in spending the next year, which is important for schools because the next year is a funding year where we get our funds from, and of course we'll have to make decisions and we'll have to respond based on what the legislature does for schools. And so this year, this 2026, it was about 32 million in one-time funding spread across several areas. So I'll go through those quickly. 32 million sounds like a lot, but go ahead, Candy, you can go to the next one. So compensatory revenue, that was something that a lot of schools were hit with. Some of our local schools were hit harder than we were. Mora had an adjusted decrease, even though they put more money into it. We had a decrease of about $35,000. I just put our number next to it. We get about $1.46 million in compensatory funds, which need to be spent on certain items. They passed an anonymous threat reporting system, so districts are required to adopt this anonymous threat reporting system for reporting things like a possible violent threat on school, or bullying, or mental health issues, things like that. So it is a good thing. The state does have a couple systems that districts can use at no cost, but they did provide grants, $4 million for all the 300 schools in the state of Minnesota, so that probably won't go very far. For behavioral mental health grants, again, these are grants that you have to apply for, 12.5 million. Joe, maybe you know more about this. It's through the Department of Human Services, and there's services provided to students, and they provide some support, staff, professional development. What I understood is it has to be in conjunction with a county, so I think you have to apply together to gain some of those.
I'm not in mental health and
Oh.
behavior, I'm in aging and disability.
Ah,
so I'm
gotcha,
not-
gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
close,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
no.
So you know how those grants work, though, they're
Yeah.
really specific in
Very.
things of that sort, so. Pension provision, so reemployment, if somebody retires and the district reemploys, the district, you know, before this passed, didn't have to contribute to TRA, so it was like 9% on a salary. So now the employee and the employer have to pay into that, and I suppose the rationale is it supports the retirement fund for everyone else, so. The next slide is READ Acts. That was implemented or passed through legislature a couple of sessions ago, and we've been doing the training for the literacy training for all of our elementary staff, and now it's moving through the high school. They just made some adjustments, like, I think the interesting one for you to know is like everyone in grade 4 and above, if they're not meeting grade level reading targets, then they have to take another test, screener test, to make sure that they don't have, or screens for dyslexia or some of those other things. And the cost really is not picked up by the state, so we're paying an extra cost to do another test on students who aren't meeting. I mean, obviously it's important that we try to find those students and try to intervene and try to help them read. So it's something that we started last year, so we're definitely on it. Health insurance data survey, this is another one I think the board should have a level of awareness. They're requiring all districts to complete a survey on all of our health insurance. One of the things that was brought to the legislature was to provide a statewide health insurance for educational employees. What the legislators wanna do is find out, like, how much is that gonna cost, and how will that impact all the districts and all the employees. So we are required to provide the data, confidential data, and then they'll figure out a feasibility study for statewide insurance for all. I think for Mora, every district has their own health insurance, gets their own, goes out for bids and things like that, and so there's a possibility that we're paying this amount at some point, and if they go to a statewide, those costs might increase. So, of course, that's the whole feasibility study, so that's kind of interesting. The last thing I think is the most important thing that you should know, I gave everyone, and we talked a little bit about this at a board meeting before, but I gave you 3 handouts. The one is this green one that's more of a public thing. There's gonna be a constitutional amendment on the November election for everyone to in the state to vote on. So whenever they change the state constitution, they need to have a majority of people pass those. And really what this funding is it's based on this permanent school fund, which so happened to be started back in when our state became a state in 1858. So it goes back that far. And really what the state did is get this trust fund started when it sold public property or it got mining rights, sold mining rights, forestry rights, all those sort of things, and over time it's built. And so schools do get about 2.5% of that fund annually. And so what the constitutional amendment will do is change that and increase it to 4.5%, and they'll use kind of like a 3-year average to manage the trust fund. And so the important thing is that it provides additional funding for every school district in the state without raising taxes, property tax, income tax, or any other tax, because it's coming directly from this fund. The other nice thing is that each school district gets to decide how that money is spent, so like, a lot of times the state will give us funds, but then you need to spend it on this. So, it's gonna be a statewide thing through the Minnesota School Board Association, along with all the other associations, and you can see there's, something on talking points that, if somebody asks you about it, at least you have some background information on it. You can always direct them towards me. This is a good thing that I think we'll send out to, or we'll make available to people if they're interested in learning more about it. And the last document, I wasn't necessarily gonna give you this, but then I thought, well, this kind of goes deep into like, how did it get formulated? How is the fund set up? What's the constitutional amendment about? And it goes a little deeper, so I thought, well, I think you might be interested in reviewing that and at least getting some more information on that. So you should be able to hear a lot of information coming up. So here's how it affects Mora. It goes based on your enrollment. So currently we get $111,785, or about $68 a student. If it passes, we'll get about $45,000 more, which is $28 more per student. So it's not huge, but it's not small. It's important. We know as board members, every dollar matters, and whenever we can get funding without raising sales tax or income tax or property tax, that's a huge win for everyone. So yeah, just basically some of the things that I already talked about. One of the things that I think is important for messaging to people, if they ask you, if somebody doesn't vote yes or no, it's a no vote. So if they don't fill it in, it's a no vote. So and there's some things that schools can do. So we can distribute neutral materials, we can provide factual information, we can encourage voter turnout, we can answer questions, we can't advocate for voting yes on this. So I believe, next in the front window, we have the next session coming up. There's gonna be a turnover of 43 new legislators. We'll have a new governor. The state budget, like I mentioned, is forecasting a deficit. On that, educational issues that we should all be aware of is that $250 million that's in the current future budget is if special education Blue Ribbon Commission can't find $250 million in savings, they'll reduce funding for schools. through special ed programs like ADSIS or the cross subsidy. Compensatory, they have a task force trying to make some recommendation. Unemployment insurance for hourly people in the summer. The state has been paying for that for the past, I wanna say 2 or 3 years. If the state doesn't pay for that and keeps the program, that would be a $250 million, or $1,000, I should say, $1,000 cut or impact to our budget. Statewide health insurance, again, we don't know what that would mean. So I guess the bottom line in the future, a lot is gonna depend on, you know, what that forecast is, how much money the state has to allocate towards schools. And hopefully we're not looking at a deficit of, or the state isn't looking at that big of a deficit, so. Finally, that's it.
Any questions?
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
Alright, we'll move on. Is there a request to remove items from the consent agenda? Not, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Dakota, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ken. All those in favor of approving consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That consent agenda passes. We have the budget calendar review. I think we can all read that on our own. Nothing to act on this month. Move on to consider approval of the resolution accepting gifts and donations. We have one this month from Blaze Credit Union, $850 for Employee Appreciation Program. So look for a motion to.
So moved.
Motion by Scott.
Second.
Second by Jill. This is a resolution, so we'll have to do by roll call vote. Ken.
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Amy.
I,
Matt is aye. Dakota.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
That passes 6-0. Alright, we will move on to B, consider approval of the substitute pay rates for 2026-2027. Just a slight increase.
Yep, a $5 increase to teacher subs, and then the other subs are based on contract starting wages, so all the increases are showed on there.
Alright, thanks for that information. Look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Scott, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jill. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Pose same sign. Alright, passes 6-0. Move on, consider approval of employee appreciation and recognition events for 2026-2027.
It's an annual thing, the
Yep.
board can approve those recognition events. There's nothing new added this year.
I'll make a motion to approve the employee appreciation recognition.
Motion by Amy,
I'll second.
second by Ken. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. That passes. Consider approval of purchase property at 1200 North Industrial Road, Mora, Minnesota. Look for a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dakota, second by Scott. Any discussion on that? I think we'll have probably more discussion on this in the future, but it's a good opportunity for the school. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. That passes 6-0. Move on to 12, single read policies that receive legislative changes per MSBA.
Talk about that.
Yeah, go for it.
So annually, there's policies that we review, that's the first annual ones. And then on the second set are legislative changes, most of which are very minor. And so policy 208 allows the board to accept all these policies in one reading. Dakota, myself, and Scott went through, and Candy, went through all the policies and made those changes, so yeah, so that's that.
Alright, thanks for that information. So we'll look for a motion to approve these single read policies.
So moved.
Motion by Scott. I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Pose same sign. Alright, we'll move on. Board reports and administrative updates. We don't have any staff reports other than the superintendent. Any board member reports? Anything? Any
Quiet.
highlights from yours?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, in June, we had our, elementary staff, get trained on the new, literacy, program, curriculum program. So, which is part of the READ Act, by the way, it has to be a certain curriculum, and so Darcy and Randy spent a lot of time working with the staff piloting, different programs, and one was selected, so I went over there and watched a little bit of the training. I didn't stay the whole time, cause I think it was a part of 2 days of the training. Thankfully, the weather was, rainy, it was a good day to do the training, and I heard the trainer was, outstanding, so that was really, received well. So, in grades K through 6, there will be, a new, literacy curriculum mixed into some of the same curriculum that we've used over time, and I'm sure the board will get an update from Darcy and Randy on the progress of that, so, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. We have upcoming dates to remember, you can read that all on your own. Back to school doesn't seem like it should be right around the corner, but here we are.
Yeah,
Was there any board correspondence to be sent around? Nothing this month. Any other board business? Alright, nobody here for open forum, so, we'll move on to item 19, adjourn to closed session, meeting, superintendent year-end evaluation per Minnesota State Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3A.
I'll make a motion that we do that.
Okay, we have a motion to move, second by Ken, all's in favor of moving to closed session, signify by saying aye.